We've got people lined up for questions. I just got one more, because you used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out. I'm Protestant. I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church, and I love God, and I love my church. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor. The power of positive thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great. He would give a sermon. You never wanted to leave. Sometimes we have sermons, and every once in a while we think about leaving a little early, right? Even though we're Christian. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Frank, would give a survey, and would give a sermon. I'm telling you, I still remember his sermons. It was unbelievable. And what he would do is he'd bring real-life situations, modern-day situations, into the sermon. And you could listen to him all day long. When you left the church, you were disappointed that it was over. He was the greatest guy. And then, he passed away. He was great. He wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is a great book.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed.
Hello again. Shalom. Baruch Hashem Yehovah El Shaddai. Hello Lam. El Nesei. Yehovah Yara. Yara. Alright, Yehovah Shabbat. It's one of my favorites. This is going to get interesting. Listen to these people when they speak. Even the word speak, you can hypnotize it. I've done all these enough, right? Listen to their words. Words. Vav, Rosh, Dor. You understand? Vav, Rosh, Dor. Speak. Divide the continuum, science. Ayan, testimony. K, like a cop, surround, and a bow over. It's authority. You can't make any of this up. Explain it to me, somebody, if I'm wrong. Okay, what am I doing next here? I'm going to talk about, very quickly here, responsibility. Why it says in Spider-Man, Sp. Ayan, Daleth, Ear, Ma, and you can spell it out. Can't make this up. So, responsibility, if you're dealing with multidimensional information, this is what scripture is. That's why it's called the living word. That's why it's referred to like water. Because water is multidimensional. When the Most High created everything, he had the word, and then boom, it started. Everything started, the heavens and the earth. Perspective itself was through the word, and water came out of it. And it doesn't explain how the water got there, which means it's maybe even something that has to do with perspective. Our eyes have liquid in it. This is amazing information. Keeps expanding. It's blowing my mind. It's like, if we're not supposed to explode, why does it feel so good? It's kind of violent, though. You can get some aches and pains in your muscles. I'm not even kidding. So, if you have, that's why Paul talks about 5 different things. Maybe I can get them off the top of my head. Apostles, 5. Prophets, 4. Evangelists, preachers, pastors. Third dimension. Of course, amalgamation, propagation. Then it's like teachers. That's or caregivers, those who have gifts in caregiving and giving abundance, just like the earth gives out abundance from underneath. And all these cycles resemble death and life. So ancestors, so that's two. And then speaking in tongues, I think various tongues was one. And first dimension is life or death, light and dark, consciousness or unconsciousness. See? So when you get the gift of tongues, I'm actually procreating spiritually and verbally by taking um the first dimension with which is just consciousness. I'm able to connect to somebody's consciousness using language. See what I mean? Why it's one dimensional, why tongues is mentioned last. It's from greatest to least. It's a hierarchy mention and it's 5 dimensions. You can't make it up. I just said it right now, right? You can go to the scriptures because there's a couple places, I think, like 2 or 3 places it mentions the hierarchy, just like that. So when you have this, like Paul, that's why he even said, I don't know, he saw things and heard things. I'm just like finding it out somehow through the imprinting of the living word in scripture. Paul, who's trying to be humble, speaks of a man. Maybe he's talking about Messiah. I don't, or himself. I'm not sure. Some people debate who he was talking about. He talks about somebody caught up in the outer heavens. The third, that would be fourth, or we're in the first, then the fourth would be second. Third would be fifth. So fifth is able to perceive the infinite. You know, whether in body or out of body, I don't know. Only Elohim knows. So when you have that responsibility, then things that function in those dimensions that are negative, like demonic stuff or just ancestral stuff in the blood that hasn't been taken out. That's why blood is involved in the Old Testament and the New Testament and the symbolism of it. People have been lost from their past, so even the stuff from the genetics shouldn't be on there. But if they're expressing themselves from the past, then you're not fully physically formed. You can have a lot of knowledge spiritually. You see how both sides need to be balanced. So that's why we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. And I'm going to show that scripture, but that's why people, if I do something, there's usually a reaction of some other person that comes up. It can be from third party. It can be from a spiritual thing. That's why you can just call them third party. It doesn't matter if they're physical or not. Sometimes, a lot of times they are physical. It's been proven in cults and stuff that happens. There's like government people in cults that monitor. They have them in Scientology, they have them in Judaism, and they have them in Islam, they have them in Christianity, they have them in Catholicism, Methodists. Why is Christianity cut in so many pieces? That's Tyrus. Fragmentizer. That's what is it? Ramses, Ra. To break in pieces. Compartmentalize. Why is a church like that? Because you have to balkanize, as they call it. What? Balkanize is another word for coagulate. Remember I went over the coagulate and solva? What they actually mean? It's 2 types of Tyrus. I don't think I said that directly, but to fragment or fragment or moisturize. Moisturize is a type of fragmentation, but it's more of a getting bad things out. Fragmentizing just kills everything. But I want to stay on topic. So some things have to be left unsaid. And so that's why I think I forgot to mention the other day what I actually saw in a dream state. Like I woke up like a little jock tonight leprechaun thing. I didn't see any form. It was as if like a shadow kind of just went like I saw it in the distance, like a little sock puppet shadow, like just like a little thing that goes, "Whoop," as if like a gopher or some kind of small rodent or like a weasel or like if I had a ferret and it's dark at nighttime and I just see the shadow of the ferret stand up. That's what it looked like. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the heck? And so I get out of my bed and I bent because I left the window cracked and it happens to be the emergency exit, which is funny. So this all is trying to tell me something because that's what the Most High does. It says he shows you things in dreams. So in the in between state maybe too. So I woke up and I saw something stand up and I'm like, what the heck is that? Like a little leprechaun. It was funny. I was just talking about leprechauns. You know what I mean? So it was weird how then that manifested. And there's a reason why The Simpsons has the jockeys. It's Jockton. It's so weird. They know who they are. I mean, come on. And and so see, they keep records. They're just too small for anybody to see them. It's a little joke. That's a little joke. Jockton, a joke. Joke has a kernel of truth, a little bit, a yod of truth. You can't make this stuff up. I can keep going. It's virtually infinite, fifth dimension. So I bent the handle getting up because when you're in between that stuff, you just react. It's just your flesh reacting. And so there's this corner right here next to where the bed extends, where I can just stand there. I got up and I'm like, wait a minute. And it could take you a few seconds and I turn on the light and there's nothing there. Because a lot of things went through my head. A rat. There's like these little rabbits running around. I didn't know what it was, a rodent or something. But then I describe it as a leprechaun or a gremlin because I think it's funny. Because I had been speaking about that. And usually, like I almost never see this. There's only 2 times I've ever seen anything. Technically, if that's the third, it's weird because it's tiny. But one of them was something. It's like a big, tall, skinny silhouette, and you can't really tell what it is, but it's moving around. And other people have seen stuff like that, so it's not like I'm the only one who's seen stuff like that. And so this was just like a tiny version of that. So I didn't know what it was. It was the middle of the night. Thought maybe it could be a gopher or some kind of rodent. I was like, I don't know what this is. Like in my bed. So it makes you jump up when you're half asleep. So stuff will be attracted. The veils will get thinner. That's just how it is. You can't do anything about it. And then that's when you get the attracting of negative energy, and then they'll tell you hallucinating, even though thousands of testimonies, millions of testimonies, however many of people who had similar experiences and all that, and they're like, it's psychosis. It's just them. And if you watch Total Recall, it teaches you that psychology because there's like 3 or 4, probably 5, it's probably 3 or 5 steps or times in that movie where they tried to tell him, no, they did your memory again. You're in something. This is actually not real. We're going to get you out of your psychosis. We're using the technology to talk to you. If you watch that movie, it's so wild. It's such a psychological thriller. It's genius. So to move on here, because I gotta get through a lot. Trump versus Kamala has nothing to do with their physical bodies, the supposed right and left, or red or blue, or any of that. The word Trump is ta, rom, pe. That's the mark, border, signature, bruise of the exalted rum. Either it can be the best tasting fruit because it's so ripe, it's right there. Like if you ever have the best ones are like peaches or bananas or What else? When it's like so ripe, it's like woo. Like a kiwi, I think is like that. Strawberries could be like that. There's certain fruits where it's like it's so ripe. That's what rum is. That's why it means exalted, because it's so close to being rotten. It has to be careful. That's what there's a rum in Shemiramoth. That's why it's like more responsibility. It's not like some funny name. It's like, oh, we're all Shemiramoths now or something. No, 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 no. Do not take that name on lightly. It's I kind of felt like it was like funny, like, oh, I'll just do the most Semitic sounding name. It's like, yeah, apparently the Most High, which is part of the name Shemiramoth, had a different plan. I was like, no, no, Shemiramoth is funny. It sounds funny when you're doing a funny voice, like Shemiramoth. Oh my god. But then you go look it up and you're like, oh wow. What is the feature now? What's going to happen? So the mark or sign of the exalted mouth is literally what Trump means. And tell me why it describes him perfectly. Especially that's his name. That's like a bloodline. People could have died for that name. You understand? And he has a mark, sign, border, signature. When he speaks, he goes like this. It makes marks and signs and borders and exalts his mouth. You can't. The roots and alphabet are prophetic. Who appeared to Abraham? International trade and all that stuff. Father of multitude, father over multitude. Shield. His name has to do with shield. Yahweh said, "I am your shield." In you, all the nations shall bless themselves. Is the literal Hebrew. It's usually be blessed, but it's both. Be blessed and bless themselves, because their language will be purified. Because this it's so simple. The alphabet is so simple, and then you read the roots, and it's like, if I just had somebody in my life that spoke all the different dialects, if they spoke Aramaic, Hebrew, and all the different types of Hebrew, because it's like an old Hebrew, how much more knowledge can come out of it. That's why Paul said, in him, the word, is all the knowledge, in Messiah, which is the word, is all the knowledge of wisdom and everything. It says it there. So anybody who reads that, the stronger their faith is at the time, or the stronger their faith gets as they keep reading scripture, they'll keep coming back to them. Keep testing them. It's like, look how easy it is. It's like, especially nowadays, you can go to, there was anywhere in the world for about at least 3,000 to 4,000 years, if people had the faith to travel or do what it takes to find somebody that has Abraham's alphabet. That's just 4,000 years of this type of discernment is available for those who seek it. Some people might have to just go across the street. Some people might have to go across borders, like Eber, he who passed over, might have been a world traveler, Eber, and then the Hebrews. It's those who can pass borders, I would say, even without physically traveling, and those who, if they have the ability, they can travel. That's where the spirit of evangelism comes from. You can see how the root, as it says in scripture, is in the Hebrew people. Their branches can be cut off and you grafted in, but you can also be cut off and they graft it back in. So it says this in Romans 10, or I think it's Romans 10. So Kamala is just the camel, and it's supposed to resemble a camel's neck. This lady has a very strong neck. You understand this stuff? She cackles. And she looks like she can carry a lot of stuff. But she stands for international trade. Of course, Biden, may he add. Joseph is may he add, and Biden is Joseph Robin Biden. There's a play on thing with Robin, but he's Batman and Robin. I said this in an old video. Maybe I can fish it out for proof. Because I do have these in my own archive. I just don't put them out because there's too many mistakes in them. I mentioned too many people. I give too much credit to people that now I don't have the same opinion, all kinds of stuff. So I can keep clips of it. And I do have it, all of the clips. So I can keep clips of it and show proof when I said it like 3 years ago. Or from 3 years ago in a video reading something that was a couple years old in the 3-year-old video. Stuff like that. But I only want to put out what I think is pure. So if I think there's any impurities in those, I won't put them out. But I can still make the clips and stuff from them if I have to try to prove something. I think my words in each video using these words, it proves it. So I don't know what to do. So international trade. So now Trump is going to be the mark. If you don't have the mark of the beast, you can't buy or sell. Kamala. So they're going to vote for the mark. You understand? They're going to say the deep state's fighting against him. And then he's going to win a deep state election, just like with Hillary. Hillary, they do it on purpose, had light skin and light hair. Kamala has dark skin and dark hair. They're just doing the Jake and the Boaz. They did it with Putin and Zelensky. They both named Vladimir. They both went to the Wailing Wall. And Putin wore the black one of the left hand. And Zelensky wore the white yarmulke of the right hand. It's just, these people bind themselves to wickedness, not realizing that gives Elohim more control over them. They do it because they think they're breaking bonds, but it gives Elohim more control over them. When you willingly make yourself a slave to Elohim, to the Most High Elohim, Elion, it's better. I've told a story on past streams where I was back in another state that's a bad state that I don't like, but it has kala in it, the word I mentioned earlier. And there's this really, really, really strong thunderstorm. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I was in my room, and I think I was getting ready to pray. Don't mark my words on that. For some reason, I was in there, and I was where I usually would bow to pray. For some reason, so I don't know if it was a coincidence or if I was actually in there to pray. But I'm in there, and the whole room, all of a sudden, just that blue light that I've been talking about, that fourth dimension, that blue light, just the whole thing is like an X-ray, and then it was the most powerful, like cracking whip wind sword crazy roar noise you ever heard in your life, and it felt like it cut me in half, and I just fell on the floor and I begged to be God's slave. I don't care. Like that's not embarrassing for me. I'm very proud of that. Proud of that. Like, whatever the good version of pride is, I don't know. It's like, and then look what it grows into. Now eventually you can speak like thunder. You don't have to be afraid of anything. So Kamala Harris. So I forgot what harar meant, but I mean harass can give you a clue to harass somebody. But I'm kind of tired. I want to stick on subject, not try to get her last name. We got if you go to the Telegram thing that I have in the bio, link in the bio, it will have all these links and everything, and it's so interesting to Hebraize all this. But Mark Kelly is who she's considering. Mark means dedicated to Mars in a nutshell, and Kelly is to imprison. What's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in China. what's happening, stay home, stay safe, isolation. So international trade, but also dedicated margin in prison. That sounds like the woman seated on the beast. It's ancient Babylon that keeps coming back, and it has human souls as currency. It's written 2,000 years ago. The latest it could have been written still proves it right. Like they have manuscripts that are at least as old as 300 AD. So 300 years after it was said, if that's how old, if they have maybe some that are 200 AD or even 100 AD, that would be pretty amazing. They wouldn't show you them probably, but or maybe even the originals, but they have ones that they say are back to the. So even if it was 300 years ago, this is insane. But it's already written on everything. It's just for those with eyes to see. So if the Most High turned your perception, that's literally what Pana means, is your face in a turning motion of your face. Observing everything that's going around is literally what Pana means, what face means. Those who pay attention. Moshe was just walking around. And this bush, there's this probably acacia tree, looked like it was on fire, but it wasn't being burned. Acacia trees are what the temple was made out of. The tabernacle, sorry. And they say that's what the stake, the crucifixion, because acacia trees were plentiful, and the thorns that they had in the acacia tree was the crown of thorns. That's what. So it's just weird. The tabernacle was made with that. Moses was told to throw a tree or log that was just laying out in the desert. How does this dead log bring anything to life? Can these bones live? The water was bitter. Yam is where you get Miriam. Is where you get Mary. And he was told to put the tree in the water, and it made it sweet. But it was a dead tree. What does that mean? 2,000 years before Messiah, or 1,400 years before Messiah. You can't make this up. I'm showing you in live time, and then you could have done this 2,000. Anybody could have done this 2,000 years ago. When it commenced. That's why Messiah says the kingdom of Elohim is in your midst. It's within your grasp. Get ready. That's why he even spoke of it in a way that makes you think it's going to happen any moment. It's like, yeah, because it could happen any moment. You know what I mean? This information has to be analyzed. That's why they even describe in an Armageddon-like way quantum computing, decrypting everything that's ever processed through computers. The power of that would be able to get anybody who's made any mistakes on a computer. It was just everybody, in one way or another, legally with some fraud thing, morally they got mad at somebody, they told somebody bad things on the internet, they looked at bad things, anything can be manifested there. And so it's just fear. I don't really think they can get what they say. It's theoretical, and the reason why it makes people afraid is because they're modeling their lie after a natural manifestation in creation. That's what anti-Messiah is in place of. It's a synthetic version. If there's something, they want to make a synthetic version. They're the spirit of that song. Anything you can do, I can do better. And you can't. It's like, oh, good Lord. On Judgment Day, that song itself will just rebuke 99.9999% of people, like everybody. 100%. That's just like the reason why anything bad happens is just that spirit. And it's like I've always disliked that song ever since I was a child. I just couldn't stand it. So what am I doing? Okay, back on track. Paper written on the word. See, you can contain it once you keep exercising. But you see how even though it seems like writing can be manipulated easier than speaking, it's still a necessary crutch for people who are affected by those who are trying to affect the words themselves. So it's a necessary negative depending on your perspective. Woo. I'm going almost. I'm trying to stay on track and trying to get done. It's the third hour. Middle of the third hour. So Mark Kelly, dedicated Martian in prison. You have stuff I already told you. International trade is the kingdom of Elohim. That's why Kamala represents an antichrist type thing, the scarlet beast. And Trump is just the one who makes the mark. So he could be, he's at least an antichrist, is the least. There's a lot, like Bezos would be one, Xi Jinping, Putin. There's all kinds of, Macron is a really good candidate too. All kinds of people are good candidates. Just in my perception, I keep coming back to only one. And it's as orange and in your face sometimes as the second dimension, the underworld. And it's been proven these people put this on as makeup. When they're really orange, I bet they're talking about more death, right? Try to notice that. The more orange the face is, see if you see. I'll have to see if I notice that next time I see that man, so-called man, speaking. So international trade though is supposed to be kingdom of Elohim. That's international trade. But what is Trump doing? The mark of the exalted mouth. What is he doing? America first. That's Antichrist. On top of that, it could be a Kabbalistic joke. America first to be destroyed. Because remember that Super Trump video I showed you where Israeli children are choir. We're literally calling, in a song, calling Trump the Prince of Jerusalem. And basically, everything they ascribe to him is the Messiah in the song. And they show the war with Afghanistan and with Hamas. Hamas. And then Iran with a nuclear weapon going off and an American dollar burning with silhouette telling you to be quiet. Shh. But Trump's going to save us. Who's us, though? It's an Israeli children's choir. Or like elementary school or something like that. I don't know what it is. Super Trump. And those things they calling him a Messiah, like the Messiah. It's depicting those things that showed in the video because I couldn't put the audio, but remember I showed the different pictures it was showing. Messiah, the true Messiah, was crucified for saying that about himself. And these people who call themselves the modern state of Israel now say that Trump is their Messiah. This children's choir. I'm not saying the whole thing. Just if you go look it up, Super Trump, Israeli choir. Just look that up. Yeah, if he's the Antichrist, well, it's gonna tie that all together. But it's really a lot of information, so kind of like awestruck while I'm trying to explain. Because remember what I said about Tesla, Teth, Lamed, and lamentation. Remember, it could be lamentation. The vortex of lamentation. I'm exhausted. Yehovah renews my strength like the eagles. But we'll see what happens. Baruch Hashem Yehovah Shaddai. So America First is Antichrist. What was I saying? Oh, first the appearance and the Super Trump song. Yeah, you could look up all the beliefs that they have about Mashiach. Um, so basically, if you know about the Belt on Road Initiative, then and that's the new Silk Road to make Russia, China, with China at the head, India, and Israel. That's literally in the Hebrew alphabet, Shin and Sin. The Sinites or the Shinites is Shino and Sino. That is the Sinites. Those are Canaanites. There's a lot of Americans that are also Canaanites. So that's why they work together. But China is, because of how they did their culture and trade, I've read the history of China. Then you'll know that I'm right when I'm saying about them. This is just historically how they think. And so they don't seem to like Semitic people to the point where they pushed their version of them to the Himalayas. Why do you think they look so Semitic in the Himalayas? And why their leaders are called lamas? Lamed. And then the rest look more like 60 between 60 to 90% Japhethite. Those almond eyes are Japhethite, believe it or not. And the rest is Hamitic. There's very, very little Semitic in a lot of and it's always been that kind of fight, Semitic against non-Semitic, because Semitic was keeping the tradition of Adam, and whoever wasn't doing that was fighting against it to keep power for themselves and control people. It's just the game is just thousands of years old. It's repeated thousands of times. It's had so many iterations. It's fearfully and wonderfully made. Awestruckingly, not fear and irrational. When the Most High created it, He knew what He was giving it. So it's awestruckingly, not that nothing surprises God or anything. It's His own creation, but it's like he was serious when He did it. He's not messing around. That's why He only does it once. He gives it His investment, and then you gotta do something with it. All right, so Maga means contact in Hebrew root. Krog Maga. I just proved that Maga means contact. Krog Maga in Hebrew. Magos in Spanish or Greek is magician. It's used in Daniel. It's used with Moses and the magicians. Magos. It is a high level of the Church of Set, which is a branch, although it tries to claim it's not, of the Church of Satan. Because according to Aleister Crowley, Satan himself told Aleister Crowley he used to be called Set. Set-an supposedly just means men of Set, or Set dog. So that's where you get the whole death thing with the dog, the black dog. So let me continue here. So MAGA, to make contact, that's why they're starting to increase the whole alien thing. Making contact with fourth dimensional beings. That Alien Code movie, speaks of weird things like that. But it's too materialistic, so the people in the they don't have the armor of Elohim, so they get brain tumors and stuff. If you have the armor of Elohim, you can reach into the infinite and pull out all the riches of wisdom and and all kinds of stuff. I've encountered a lot of silence so far. The first 2 weeks up on here, except just that paganism comment when I said the dimensional stuff about the Hebrew. I feel like something might come up where this information might be a foreshadowing of the silence that happens in the heavens for half an hour. It's one of the parts of Revelation. If people understood the magnitude of that, because you don't, it says half an hour. That doesn't have to be an actual half hour. It can be longer, depending on what the language actually meant. If you dive deeper into it, maybe it is half an hour. I don't know. Half an hour would be so long, because everything would be so silent. It'd be almost like being in one of those rooms, those silent rooms where they have the ones they've been creating more and more silent, where there's like a record of how long someone's been in there. Because if you stay in there too long, you can hear your blood pumping and all this stuff, and it can drive you crazy. So, a room like that would be a small taste of what it's going to be like when all of heaven is silent for whatever period of time, whether it's a half hour, which is a long time for something like that. Because the silence would be like probably a knife turning in your skull or something. So it's like there's so much silence, like nobody can stop talking. Maybe that's why they can't sleep day or night. It's like nobody can stop talking. Everybody's awake. I don't know. Don't mark me on some of this. So Church of Set. Everything's a Egyptian death ritual. Not Egyptian as an ethnicity. I'm talking about the ancient cult spoken of in scripture and history of Ra and Set and all that, and Horus and everything. That's all I'm saying, is the mythology that everybody can read about. But people see it as real. That's why they name all this stuff after Greek and Roman idols and deities. All these missions and all these craters and all these planets and stars and stuff. So obviously they're very interested in it, but they're hiding the Egyptian part a lot. They just praise it separately as its own thing. Remember, it has to do with Mars. So Mars is a wandering star. Just think about that when I go over this next part here. And we're reaching the 45-minute mark. It's 43 right now. And I'm going to get into Trump. Something's going to come out. So I have this chart here because I have a pretty good memory. And when Trump was first president, he did a tour. There, hopefully you can see it says China on this side right here, China. And it's going from China to Saudi Arabia, the House of Saud. It's then Israel, then the Vatican, then the G20. That's 5. And he literally went from China. They are the Hamitic. They represent the Hamitic one-sided. They worship their ancestors who are dead, and then everything they do is for their family and for their own honor. And they can sacrifice themselves for their honor. That's Hamitic. But there's a balance of everything. So there's a negative and a positive to every mindset of the 3 sons of Noah. Then the second dimension is Japhethite, good and evil. See how it's 2-dimensional? And Shem's supposed to be 3-dimensional, but what can trap Shem is sometimes materialism and materialistic science, the false science, math. Thinking he has it all right because of the math, all kinds of stuff like that. In the 4th dimension, if it's just a 4th-dimensional being, it's just curious all the time. Learning and never coming to a conclusion. They're not actually expanding. They're just stretching themselves out through whatever means. Whether it's drugs, visual stimulation, whatever. in the fifth dimension, G20, the fifth dimension is the web of it. Because remember how it's a web, it's string theory, it's all that. So that's why the G20, it's G20, G30, G10, G this, and there's so many of them. It's like the fifth dimension. That's what it represents. And Saudi Arabia, so China has that, and then Saudi Arabia, House of Saud, are actually Turkish, and Turkish is Japheth. Can't make this up. Armenians are from Japheth, and yeah, Turks are from. That's why they're light skinned, and their eyes can be Asiatic. It's Japheth. This is just our. It's in scripture. It's just our heritage. Everybody's heritage. We all go back. We all mixed. We all go back to Adam. We all go back to Noah. We all go back to Adam. So on. And then Saudi Arabia. So they would be the Japheth, and that's like Zoroastrianism. Because the people of the House of Saud, they don't. It's not true Islam. This is a neutral comment. It's not true Islam. It's meant to harm the good that comes out of Islam and reward the bad, just like it does with Judaism or Hinduism or Christianity or Catholicism, where they cut it up, these things up into. That's why the House of Saud controls the U.S. and Israel are like Mossad stuff, like ISIS and stuff like that. Saudi Arabia is like behind Iran and the stuff with Russia, and they're all kind of pulling on each other and using each other, and it's very, very interesting. So Zoroastrianism, it's not actually true Islam. Some people try to argue all this type of stuff. I'm just giving you a neutral opinion, because that's the best. Nobody's my enemy. So Israel, of course, is the third dimension. It's amalgamation. It's where you get the scripture. It's where we get Messiah in the flesh. Paul speaks about this kind of stuff. But remember, math and everything can corrupt Shem. Math and logic. Remember Spock, Vulcans, or at least him being half human, half Vulcan, is supposed to actually represent a very Hebrew or Israelite thing. That's why the creators of some of the space stuff claim to be of that bloodline. Their movies kind of have the psychology, so I would have to believe them, right? Or at least they have some of it. That's what Joktan is, a small measure of it. But they claim to be all of it. It's just, can go on and on about it. So it's a death ritual. He's going through all the dimensions. That's why his tongue is striding through the earth. I'm going to read it right now in the scripture. And then the Vatican, it's called the Holy See. S-E-E. Waters above, waters below, play on words, and then the sea. And it's like their all-seeing eye. They use a lot of all-seeing eye symbolism. But remember, it's just a one eye. So it's got a perception where all time and all information is on one point. That's why they're very computer-like. Can't make this up. I'm telling you why these people even behave like this. They've set up principalities. And so Trump is just showing his respect to each one before he controls the whole snake. It literally looks like a snake, a serpent, a dragon. Dracon. Has horns like a lamb. Speaks like a dragon. Silence in the heavens for half an hour. That's when you're silent when you're listening. So G20, the G, Freemasonry. G20 is various webs of authority over the entire sphere of life, the entire Hava, the entire biosphere, the entire Eva. Every government of the world is world government. That happens only through Messiah. So who are these guys? That's literally what part of Mikhail, my name. Who are these guys? What is this guy? What is that guy? Who is Elohim? What is Elohim? What is he doing? I've been asking that since I was little. Who's that? Where'd they come from? What are they doing? What'd they say? So, oh yeah, and part of the responsibility of all this stuff, again, I forgot to mention, is like spiritual things that are corrupted, that come from people or in people or whatever, can try to get you to do things or say things. That's what Paul admits when he was being stubborn. He said, I tried to get people to blaspheme because I knew they didn't know the scripture, but they were having the spirit part of it, and he was jealous that he went so hard in this knowledge, but then these people who knew nothing, because they had the faith, can be so much more knowledgeable. Or it makes their like in a computer you have, like, what is it called, RAM means exalted, rum, you can't make this up. And so it just increases in your spirit and body, basically your RAM. Your rum, your roh is your spirit, your breath. It sounds like a rum. You understand? This is, and so then you got the G20. Okay, so this is all a death ritual of going through all the things. But see, the G20, it's just more men. So is the Vatican. Where it's supposed to get spiritual, it's just still physical. So it's opposing, it's a mask, it's an anti or replacer, not necessarily it's a usurper, basically. And so let me read the part where it says their tongue stretched through the earth. I want to get in to what, if he Hebraize the word blood, and especially letter by letter, it's fascinating. Can't make this up. And I think I'm going to be able to finish this. Oh no, I have a bunch of things to look through, don't I? Let me check really quick, because I might just start a new one and shorten this one. I have a little bit to go. Oh, I just have to go through Colossians. Okay. So I'll do I'll do this psalm and end with this psalm, and I'll do probably part 4. Isaiah, Ephesians. Oh, I'll end with this. Let me put this up on the screen. Move this over. Moving on. I'll end with this for this section. I have to do another one. I'll gladly spend myself, as Paul says. Stop your threatening, knowing that he is who is both master and yours is in heaven, and that there's no partiality with him. Oh yeah, so if your employers, treat your employees good. Finally, be strong in the master, which is Messiah, and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that's the Father, that's the infinite dimensional, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil, that is diabolo, speak to divide, but just division. There's no speech in there, though, because he's not even third dimensional. He's been brought down. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood is basically the house of the small lamed, or the small daleth. So I'll get to that when I come back. But against the rulers, and against the authorities, and against the cosmic powers over this present darkness. And I might do a whole stream another day of the Hebrew behind this. Cosmic powers, that's cosmic kratos, over this present darkness. SCOTUS. Not even kidding. Supreme Court of the United States. SCOTUS is how you pronounce I think the Hebrew form of the Greek, or even the Greek. It's SCOTUS, I think, in the Greek. Even in the Greek. SCOTUS, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. So not flesh. It's what people allow into their body. Because remember, they're fourth dimensional, able to reach out to the fifth and the infinite dimensional. Therefore, take up the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to withstand the evil day. Having done all, to stand firm, therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness. You don't get scared and hyperventilate. Do you understand? Because you're righteous. You've chosen it. despite past missing the mark. And as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. Feet were usually vengeance. Now it's gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation. See, none of this is worth it without the shield, right? And take on the helmet of salvation, that's your fifth dimension, Messiah, the Word, before Messiah incarnated, the Word, he who has the law shall live by it, the Word, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. So the word of Elohim is your sword. I already said this in past ones, dividing everything. That's what they said of David. They said, you're like an angel of Elohim, knowing all things. How are you doing this? How are you dividing all this stuff with your mind? Praying at all times in the Spirit. Oh, that's how. With all prayer and supplication, to that end, keep alert with all perseverance, perception, making supplication for all the saints, prayerful of others, and also for me speaking, and Paul. Well, Paul's already passed, so he doesn't need prayer. That words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the good news, gospel. For which I am an ambassador in chains, and I declare it boldly as I ought to speak. I keep forgetting to mention the AI in the Israeli military that's scanning all the phenotypes of a Semite that you can possibly find or in Palestine. And it's called the gospel, but it takes life. So we'll go over that when I come back. So I can't even spell it right. I can't even spell AI gospel. There is no AI gospel. I can't even spell it right on the paper. Anyway, final greetings. Anyway, I want to turn some music on and start another one. I don't know when, because I'm getting tired, but I have to finish this. So, my strength, like the eagles, is the faith I'm going to have. Baruch Hashem Yahavah, Baruch Hashem Ben Elohim, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen, 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 amen. Let's see. Start the music. It's very hot in here. I gotta turn the air on. Here we go.